The Complete Fighter Podcast.
Welcome to episode 16 of the Complete Fighter Podcast. My name is Cormac O'Malley, and as ever, I'm delighted to be joined by my co-presenter, MMA aficionado, Sam Nathan. How are you today, Sam?
Not too bad. Still as bored as ever, but sure, what can you do? Getting a bit messy now, the old hair. I need a haircut like yourself. Did you do yours yourself? It looks like you did.
I just put a bit of gel in it. I'm probably the only guy who puts gel in his hair just for when he's going to Super Value. But come here to me. We missed you on the last episode. It was just me.
Yeah, it was terrible without me.
You probably didn't even listen back to the episode, and you're just saying, "Yeah, it was terrible."
I listened to 30 seconds of it, and then that was enough for me. Like everybody else, probably clicked on for 30 seconds, saw I wasn't there, and then that was it. Then not worth watching.
I know you're the MMA aficionado, but I'd say boxing fans were relieved you weren't on that episode. They're probably thinking, because it was just me, they're probably thinking, let's just listen to the expert now.
Come on. You know as much as I do about boxing, that's it. Which is all from YouTube videos.
All right, come here. We'll just get straight into its announcement early this morning that Amanda Nunes has dropped out of UFC 250 due to take place on May 9th. She was due to fight Felicia Spencer. That's not going ahead now. If you just give us your thoughts on that, Sam, reasoning why and such.
Yeah, basically she said that she didn't want to go into a fight without a full training camp, which is understandable. She said she's looking to fight, but probably not till June at the earliest. But yeah, sort of understandable. A bit strange that they would announce a fight like that and then she would come out and say in another interview that she's not going to be fighting then. So I don't know what's going on with the UFC. It's a bit it seems a bit wishy-washy about this UFC card on May 9th. But she says she won't be fighting anyway without a full training camp, and that'll be June at the earliest that she'll be back.
Yeah, I said on the last episode that the May 9th UFC 250, which according to Dana White is going to be behind closed doors. Obviously, it is the case that would feature apparently Henry Cejudo versus Dominic Cruz, Tony Ferguson versus Justin Gaethje, and what was supposed to be Amanda Nunes versus Felicia Spencer. Also, Donald Cowboy Cerrone against Anthony Pettis. For an event that's supposed to be behind closed doors, do you not think there's too many? I know it's a strange thing to complain about. Do you not think there's too many big fights on for that card, considering it's going to be behind closed doors? Like, could they not wait to have the biggest fight, say 3-4 big fights on one card? Could they not wait to do that until people can attend the event?
No, like I'd be happy. I can see where they're going with it, because if you've no other sport on at the minute, then they're not going to have any competition for viewing numbers really. And if it's a stacked card like it's supposed to be, then everybody's going to watch it, and it's probably going to be the biggest pay-per-view of all time if they do get it going. But what I would say is it looks increasingly likely that America, especially in Florida, and now it's looking like Dana White said he's having meetings with the Nevada State Athletic Commission to open up their Apex facility there. So it's looking more likely that we're going to have a few UFC cards. So most likely they're going to be in Florida, because Florida is just going to open back up anyway. And then if he can convince the Nevada State Athletic Commission to open the Apex facility, then he can do events behind closed doors whenever he wants. So maybe it would be a good idea to sort of stagger these big fights and create a couple of big main events. But sorry, go ahead.
What I'm saying is that not every pay-per-view can be stacked. Obviously, we can look back on UFC 205, which was absolutely stacked. You remember Chris Weidman fought I don't know if it was Luke Rockhold on that card. No, it wasn't. It was Chris Weidman fought If you remember UFC 205, the first card in New York, there was Rousey versus Holly Holm. There was McGregor versus Eddie Alvarez. It was an amazing card, but like that was unique in the sense that it was so stacked. Not every card can be stacked. Would he not wait until he can have a stacked card where he can also make money on the gate because people can attend, where all fighters are much more likely to be in shape? Do you see what I'm saying?
But like, if the fighters want to get paid, then let them fight. And if there's not going to be, like, you don't know for how long there's going to be no fans at sporting events anyway. So like, I mean, like, you take Korea for an example, they're back playing baseball and stuff now, but there's no fans at the game. So like, if you have to do events behind closed doors, just go ahead and let the fighters be paid. Like, but I can see where you're coming from, but unfortunately, we don't know how long it's going to be before they're going to let fans back into the arena. Obviously, it
Would
seems
you
more
would you
likely.
would you, as you know, talking to you as an MMA nerd, would you prefer not to see a stacked event where everyone is in the best of shape? You can buy your ticket to it. Would you not prefer that?
Yeah, but the problem is, how long is it going to be before I'm able to do that? I don't. Nobody knows like how long it's going to be before I can attend a sporting event again, or you can attend
Yeah,
one. So,
it's true. Yeah.
if people are losing out, if fighters are losing out on income because there's no events on, and they can do events behind closed doors and get paid, then go ahead and do it. Nobody's forcing anybody to fight either, by the looks of things. So, like, if you don't want to,
You
fight, then don't.
you seem to have changed your view on this, because in the past you were kind of against having things behind closed doors. Have you shifted your position?
I have, because maybe it's just a lack of sport altogether. I think I've shifted. I've gone crazy sitting in the house, but I think I'm no coronavirus expert or anything, so I don't want to be blurting out things. But it doesn't, for me, it doesn't seem as bleak as it was a couple of weeks ago. Now it seems to be a bit more understanding about how the whole thing works. But
At least here in Ireland.
yeah, definitely not as bleak as it was, I don't think. And it seems to be the case with the rest of the world at the minute. It's definitely not as bleak as it seems. But I'm all for people getting paid. If that's the only way they can do it for the rest of the year, then fair enough, go ahead and do it. Like I said, nobody really knows how long it's going to be before we can get crowds back in to the stadiums, so, or the arenas. So for me, go ahead. Whereas before, it was kind of like, for a fight like Ferguson and Habib, I think that deserves to have a crowd in the arena because it's such a big fight. Not saying that Gaethje and Ferguson isn't a big fight, but for me, like, Ferguson Habib is like the fight to decide who's the best lightweight ever, in my opinion. And I think it deserves to have a crowd there, which is probably why I've changed my tune.
Do you uh, do you think that fight will happen one day?
I don't know. I really don't know now. It's obviously Ferguson has to come through Gaethje now, and that's no easy task. Um, like we've seen Ferguson against Pettis, like Pettis caught Ferguson, rocked him. Gaethje can easily do the same and finish him with the power he has. And I think that would put an end to the likelihood of that matchup happening in the future. But I think if Gaethje was to win, it would actually, I think we'd be more likely to see McGregor and Habib than we would Ferguson and Habib. But no,
Well, McGregor, because obviously McGregor, he's a fan favorite. He loves to perform in front of fans. McGregor would surely never fight behind closed doors, would he? It's not like he's short for money as well.
probably not. Like, I'd imagine. I mean, where he sort of had his shortcomings before seems to be that he wasn't training properly. So I wouldn't imagine he'd go into another fight not having had a full training camp and not being able to spar with whoever he wanted or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I couldn't. What I mean by if Gaethje was to beat Ferguson is that I think Habib would more likely go for the option then of fighting McGregor, who he knows he's already beat, and then getting a ridiculous payday for it as well, you know. But yeah, sorry, good.
Do you not find that, okay, like there's a lot of uncertainty right now. Nobody knows when things are going to properly resume. America is kind of reopening now, but I don't think that would be as soon as Donald Trump wants. Um, do you kind of think that like the whole clarity of over UFC 250 is over even UFC 250 to happen now on May 9th, just over two weeks. Much like when it was supposed to happen April 18th, Khabib versus Ferguson. Do you not think this May 9th for UFC 250, that it's very kind of confusing and up in the air? Everything's up in the air, we know that. But things appear to be especially up in the air with UFC. Do you not find? Like
Yeah,
Dana White, why is Dana White being so against talking to the media in a time where he would surely need to be communicative with the media? Was he stung particularly by the media lately?
I don't think he likes the media anyway. I can't remember which story it was, but there was a story that came out before this all started, which was proven to be false or something. I think he took it to heart a little bit. I can't
That the
remember for
blackmail story.
sorry.
Is that the blackmail story?
It could have been. Um, I think there was something else though, but I can sort of, in a way, I can see a method to the madness, as in the whole suspense is probably driving even more publicity around it because people are debating whether it's going to happen or not. But
Yeah.
um,
But like,
from what you can see, obviously he's a good pal of Donald Trump, so that's a help in itself getting the sport back on again. And then, obviously, if Florida are opening themselves back up again, then regulation seems to be fairly lax in Florida, so he'd be able to go ahead and put events on. Maybe he's just doing it out of spite for the media and just not telling them where it is. But how many weeks away are we now? What, we three weeks away?
we're 18 days away.
Yeah, so like less than 3 weeks away. So, um, if it is going to happen, surely by next week, should find out what the story is. Um,
Do you
he
not
said time and time again, obviously, that if you're in the media and you don't want to cover it, then don't show up. But we'll see what happens anyway.
But like, no, he's never liked the media, especially the likes of Ariel Hawani, who he hates. But you know, like, like he just he, for want of a better term, he appears to be going mad. Like,
Yeah, it's either he's lost it altogether or else he's just purely doing it out of spite. Like, but I don't
but
know.
not 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 just with that, in terms of the fact that he is, you might disagree, acting like a complete baby, acting so childish, and like he's just being so childish by not talking to the media, by not giving us anything. But do you not think that like he is actually, you know, kind of losing it? Like, he appears to be particularly desperate to put this on.
um, it seemed that way a couple of weeks ago now, but if the likes of Florida are opening up anyway, then I suppose why not do an event? Um, I mean, if you can get, he says everybody who's going to be involved is going to be tested. If you can do that, then fair enough. Um, but I'd imagine you'd have to start testing people around now if there's a 2 week incubation period with that virus. So Like, you'd have to have everybody tested now and get the results back in the next couple of days before they hit the 2 week mark.
Do you
Before you
do you
start letting
do,
people in. So I don't know. Like, if it was me in charge, would I be having events? Probably not. But I can see.
do you know when you say he's doing this in favor of he's the fans need to get paid, and you were talking about the welfare of the fighters. Like if it's possible that the fighters won't get tested, or will actually fight before the results even come out, do you not think it's more beneficial that they not take that risk?
I agree. Like, if you're not going to get your results back, then don't take the risk. Like, but if it was done properly, then yeah, maybe it's possible. But you, like, I mean, I'd say the best argument against it is if they're going to be using tests on fighters and staff to do an MMA event, would those tests not better be used in, say, like, I don't know, like a nursing home or somewhere like people are really at risk of dying, like if they get it, like, do you not think those tests would probably be better used in those places? But yeah, who knows?
Do you think much like April 18th? Do you think it's possible that May 9th will just be cancelled?
It's possible, but I wouldn't. Why would you brag so much about it happening now after the first one being called off if you think this one was going to be called off as well? I think we're going to. I think it's going to happen. Um, the
But
whole.
but
Sorry, God.
sorry, I'm sorry to cut across you, Sam. I'm going to turn that on you and ask, why would the Disney and ESPN, most senior executives, tell Dana White to stand down with April 18th and just tell him just to cancel it outright, then say that all events are cancelled indefinitely, and then they just decide then they just decide, okay, but you can go ahead with May 9th. So there'll literally be a 3 week gap from, if May 9th was to go ahead, there'd be a 3 week gap from ESPN and Disney saying go ahead, cancel it, to go ahead with it.
The thing is, there's a couple of things that have changed since then. So I think, like we said, things are not as bleak as they were a couple of weeks ago. It doesn't seem. And especially with a lot of people in America protesting a bit against the lockdown and stuff. I think if ESPN put on any live sporting event now, everybody would tune in. I think you'd have people, obviously, you would have people giving out that it's on, but I think they'd be silenced by the majority of people who still tune in to watch it and they still make money. It's not like Disney or ESPN isn't going to be destroyed by putting on this event, whereas maybe a couple of weeks ago, when everybody was so negative about the situation and things seemed really bleak, that maybe it would have been bad for publicity. But I'd say now, if you say or you claim to have in place the ability to test people and do it safely, then it's not going to have that much of as much of a negative impact. Also, we don't know how the contracts with Disney or ESPN and UFC work. So, like, what fights are they going to be able to put on Fight Pass, for example? Would they be allowed to do their own event off the cuff and put it on Fight Pass, which is probably the idea of Fight Island? I don't know, but I don't know how
That's
their TV
that
contracts work.
that is a really good point. It's a brilliant point. ESPN and Disney have invested in the UFC. They want to get their value for money. So maybe when you spoke about the fact that the crisis was much worse 3 weeks ago, if they put it on 3 weeks ago, even if they got value for money, it would have been from a corporate social responsibility point of view, from a PR point of view, it would have been terrible PR. Now that things are less bad, they want to get value for money. From a PR point of view, it's not as bad. Can we just moving on from UFC 250, because we agreed the whole thing is a bit confusing. You think it'll go ahead? I'm not convinced, but we've 18 days to know. Chris, yeah. Did we didn't mention Chris Cyborg, did we?
No, we can quickly just mention it. As you said,
Yeah,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
go ahead then. She that she said to what she said in an interview with Low Kick MMA, Sam.
Yeah, so basically she said that she was looking at doing a cross promotional fight between her and Amanda Nunes, and that Scott Coker was interested. Obviously, they've done their cross promotion work with Ryzen before, but listen, it's never going to happen ever. And the UFC is too big a brand, and they don't need to work with Bellator whatsoever to put on big fights. It's not going to happen. And listen, Dana White's at the helm of the UFC. He doesn't take kindly to people who've moved on to Bellator for more money, or people saying that Bellator treat their fighters better than he does and that sort of thing. So he's not going to do business with them at all. It's not going to happen.
I would argue that fight doesn't sell as well as Chris Cyborg maybe narcissistically thinks it will, due to the fact that Nunes just smashed her up in the first fight, just like Nunes did with Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, I mean it's like the thing is as well. Cyborg is arguably facing a lot lesser competition as well in Bellator, so she's not going to be the best prepared for going into a rematch either. So, um, I don't think it's a good fight, and it's not going to happen anyway. There's going to be no cross promotion between Bellator and the UFC.
I would say, just actually finishing off on that, that one of the reasons it won't happen as well is because Chris Cyborg is one of the many fighters that Dana White had a very bad relationship with, or has a very bad relationship with. Secondly, as well, one of the reasons why Dana White terminated Chris Cyborg's UFC contract is due to the fact that she only wanted takeover fights, and at the time she didn't want the rematch while she's in the UFC with Amanda Nunes. Is that correct?
Sorry, say that last bit again.
That her and Dana, when she was with the UFC, were even talking about. We're talking about the possibility of a rematch with Amanda Nunes, but he said she didn't want it, and instead she just wanted takeover fights.
Yeah, I think that he wanted it more or less right away, whereas she wanted 2 or 3 fights before she went back into it, and she also wanted more money as well, which is probably the real breaking factor behind it. But no, it's not going to happen. There are 2 different promotions. Cyborg won't be back in the UFC again. Maybe in the future Nunes ends up in Bellator, who knows? But that's the only way I see that fight happen.
We'll just very quickly just go into boxing. Devin Haney is you heard about his slightly racist comments where he spoke about Lomachenko, and he said, I would, we don't really need to repeat what he said, but he said, I would beat that white boy easily. I would beat any white boy all day long. The mentioning of race seems to be a bit very unnecessary. But again, Sam, this just proves the point that I've made about him and Ryan Garcia, especially like a lot of American fighters, is they're walking around like their shit don't stink, and they're buying into their own hype, just to a ridiculous extent. And I think the fact that Devin Haney is so obviously buying into his own hype at such a young age, having such a big ego, I think that's as worrying as his racial comments. What's your view, Sam?
Yeah, it's a stupid comment, like a real childish thing to put out. See, it's something you expect from a 12-year-old, like, you know what I mean? But nah, it's do you think, I don't know, do you think Devin Haney's going to be on the level of Lomachenko anytime soon?
When I read that, I wasn't surprised. It's the same type of comment that Ryan Garcia would make, and Ryan Garcia did make unnecessarily. Do you remember about Amir Khan nearly 2 weeks ago, when Ryan Garcia said he'd easily he'd smash up Amir Khan? and him saying that was kind of out of the blue, unnecessary. Same with Devin Haney. If he went into the ring with Lomachenko, as much as I really like Devin Haney, I think he'd just be given a masterclass in boxing. And I think Lomachenko, as Lomachenko has done with many brilliant fighters, such as Reagan No, such as Luke Campbell, and Nick Grolla, some great boxers that Lomachenko did give a masterclass in boxing and just toyed with, beat them very convincingly. I think you do the same with Devin Haney. You're talking about Lomachenko, three-weight world champion, and he's only had 15 professional fights. He's won 2 gold medals at the Olympics, and had 364 amateur fights, won 363 of them. One loss in his out of 364 amateur fights. You know, I would question if Devin Haney actually believes what he's saying. I think he does. I think, without wishing to sound discriminatory, I think it's a very American thing, because Ryan Garcia is the exact same. But I would think, and I just get your view on this quickly, Sam. I would think, as I said a minute ago, the fact that he's just that he has such a huge ego at the age of 21, and that he's acting like a shit don't stink at such a young age, I would, as Ryan Garcia does, I would consider that to be as worrying as the racial comments. What do you think?
Yeah, it wouldn't even be too bothered about the comments related to race. Like, it's a childish thing anyway. Like, but as you said, I think it's a bit more of an American thing, that they have that sort of mentality that even if they don't really respect sort of what level they're at, they kind of just say, it's thing was the same. Gervonta Davis was the same. Is like calling out people ridiculously early in his career and stuff. Like, it's like, because I suppose over this side of the pond, people tend to be a bit more quiet until they have a few more fights under their belt, and that they start to, until they beat someone serious, then they'll start calling people out. But I think, as you said, it's a bit more of an American thing, I think, to be calling out people this early, you know.
Well, it's you know, I think there's kind of a lack of humility with a lot of young American fighters. But even with respect to American fighters in general, Deontay Wilder coming out, remember, months ago, and saying that he'd knock out Mike Tyson in his prime and all this. Like, it's serious lack of humility. And Deontay Wilder, of course, as well. We haven't spoke since he said this, Sam, but Deontay Wilder saying that he would he doesn't regard Tyson Fury as being the real champion.
Oh, is it even worth listening to anything he says anymore? Like, it's just ridiculous at this stage. Like either he's been drinking sitting in the house, or I don't know, there's something in the water up there. Like, but the stuff he comes out with, Jesus Christ, has he got not? He needs to, a bit like Billy Joe Saunders, he needs to take a bit of a sabbatical from social media. Like, he needs to get off it and stop doing interviews and whatever else.
And he needs to find new friends, because
Yeah.
none of his friends are loyal and real enough to say to him, "You shouldn't be saying that now." He needs to surround himself with not so many yes men, you know. We'll just finish on this 2 minutes, Sam. Eddie Hearn is talking about, for the Alexander Usyk Derek Chisora fight, for the Anthony Joshua IBF mandatory against Kubrat Pulev, for the Dylan White fight against Alexander Povetkin. He's talking about having potentially all of them in July, in July, early August, and having all of them in Saudi Arabia. What's your view on that?
Yeah, so this is like going back to what we were discussing with the UFC earlier. I think compared to a couple of weeks ago, things are not as bleak. I think the one thing maybe people are realizing in relation to the whole coronavirus thing is that you can't really stop it. So, like, things are gonna have to go on anyway. So I think that's Eddie Hearn's thinking now, is that we're gonna have to do this somewhere. If we can't do it in the UK, we'll do it somewhere where maybe they're probably in better shape with their hospitals, and probably better shape with regards to being able to test people involved and that sort of thing. But to be honest, I don't really know the ins and outs of the Saudi Arabian health system, but I'd imagine they have plenty of money, and they probably have. It's probably well funded in comparison to the UK or Ireland.
Something you didn't mention for the Qatari 2022 World Cup. It was obviously said that it couldn't be, if that still goes ahead, it'll be during the winter, because it'll be so hot. Anthony Joshua versus Andy Ruiz last year was in December. If the fights which I just mentioned, the matchroom boxing fights, were to happen in Saudi Arabia, Sam, how could they happen in July and August when that's their summer and it's boiling hot?
They'd have to be outdoor and at night, as you remember with the Khabib fight in Abu Dhabi, because they had it in a marquee, the heat was trapped in it from during the day, so even at night it was like inside it was like over 40 degrees, and obviously it was ridiculously uncomfortable for people fighting. But it would have to be outdoors, and it would have to be at night, a bit like the Joshua fight, that was over there against Andy Ruiz. But
that was in December.
Yeah, and there's no way they could do it. No way they could do it indoors, because the heat, unless they have like an air conditioned arena they can do it in. But I don't think they have that. I wouldn't imagine they have built one since the Andy Ruiz fight. But it would have to be outdoors, I'd say.
Well, Sam, thanks so much for all that. Thanks for joining us today. You are the co-presenter on episode 16. I'm honoured that you would actually give us the time of day, which you weren't able to do on the last episode.
I'm actually 11 minutes late for work now because of you. So
okay, sorry. Anyways, I'll talk to you soon, guys. Just to say as well, if you just give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at Fighter Podcast, and on Facebook at Complete Fighter Podcast, and our episodes are obviously available as well on Spotify and SoundCloud. Thanks, Sam, and guys, we'll talk to you in episode 17, okay?
Take it easy.